Welcome to this video. Thanks for tuning in. I know it's dark. It's morning for me. Some mornings I get going really early. I just want to go into a little light language. It's meant to be felt, not necessarily understood or watched. So that'll be light here in a minute. And as all this new information floods into the landscape in which you sit within, floods into and through your body, we invite you to recognize that all is swimming in a sea of relevancy. This is a play on words. As you allow yourself to open to the waves, to the internal spectrum, if you will, that is seeking to gather its thoughts. So I'm seeing basically like this inner energy is trying to get our attention, and I'm seeing us going within to gather our thoughts, to recognize what is coming into our awareness, because we all have different qualities that I'm hearing that are essentially shining through. One may say this is the end of an era and the beginning of another, the end of an era and the beginning of something new. For within this landscape, within this new recognition, we are lining up with a higher realm, a higher frequency, a higher transmission. For in this transition, all that was is no longer, yet all that was is within. So I've had a lot of references to time travel lately. So what I just said was a complete play on words. A lot of what I'm saying is. And essentially, we've moved on. Relevance is a play on words. And all that was, well, I'll just keep going into flow. I'll come back and write this up later. We seek to invite you to recognize, I'm hearing again, old patterns die hard. Let these old patterns fall away, if you will. Digest them fully so that you may move on to the dessert, to the main course. For all that is sweet in life is here now. That's my windshield wipers. Sorry, I had to pause that for a minute. We invite you to recognize that your playing field is a completely different one than it once was. Your earth has shifted dramatically. And with her dramatic shifts, so too shall your drama increase. I'm kind of hearing that this has been a word that's been misused, or we can use it to describe different. So if you think of a drama, I think of a play, like playing out, rather than the negative connotation with the word drama. But essentially, we're acting out our reality. And the set that we are living on, that we are playing out our creative capabilities on Mother Earth, has completely shifted. And so too has the form in which we are playing. For all forms are transitory. As we move through this transition from one phase into the next, and as I say phase, I'm hearing phase conjugate. So I refer a lot to Dan Winters. Again, if you guys haven't seen these videos before or listened to these videos before, I began writing things that he's talking about just while I'm in flow. And John, thank you, John, reminded me, reintroduced me to Dan Winters' work, and all of a sudden, what I was saying started making sense. So thank you, John, and thank you, Dan Winters. Well, at least it makes sense to me now. Doesn't mean everybody listening it's going to make sense to, and that's okay. Oftentimes this is meant to be felt. For we are on a brand new trajectory. Many people are calling this the golden era. the golden age. And while this is true, we recognize you to remember what golden light represents. I'm seeing so many references to the value of gold, to alchemy. I'm seeing golden trumpets. I'm seeing the goose that laid the golden egg. I'm seeing the golden rule, the golden means, right? So there's a reason that this word is so valued, and it represents our own mechanics and our own value system. So we invite you to play with these golden frequencies. I also think of the sun. For everything in this system has been upgraded. So I'm kind of seeing a reference, to keep it simple, that, like, have you ever gotten a piece of electronics, whether it's an Apple Watch or I'm here kind of seeing a new system, and you have to learn how to use it. And once you learn how to use it, it's pretty easy, but there's oftentimes there's capabilities and functions that you now have available on, let's say, a new iPhone or whatever it might be, that you didn't know you had. I mean, I still have functions on my phone that I don't even know how to work, but they're there. That doesn't mean that they don't work, and it doesn't mean that I don't have access to them. It just means that I haven't taken the time to actually look at my instruction manual or play with my electronic equipment in order to figure out all of the bells and whistles, is what I'm hearing. And I'm being guided to talk a little bit about these bells and whistles. So everything's been upgraded. So even some of the old capabilities, we don't even recognize that we've got bigger capabilities than those. Meaning, I'm kind of asking to play with this a little bit. Everything, vision, sound, smell, right? I had an amazing session with the beautiful light worker last week who was, I did a reading for her, and I recognized that she's having this intense opening with her smell, like everything. That's one of her abilities that's coming online. It's like when we used to hear the term, I smell a rat, or that doesn't smell right, or that smells great, right? It's actually an extrasensory ability. So it's a basic ability that we've always had. We just are so used to using it in one way that we're not sure how to use it in any other ways. Yet it's come online for many of us. So there's this heightened sense, for her especially, this heightened sense of smell. And for her, that's helping her tap into her intuitive abilities. Like she smells flowers sometimes. And it goes back to, have you guys ever read, Stephen King, The Shining? And while Stephen King, I've mentioned him before, was very tapped into the shadow and dark energies, there was a lot of light in his books too, because he was tapping into both worlds. And in The Shining, the shine, which is what the gift is that we can all tap into, the child, whenever he had intuition come online, I think he smelled oranges, right? Or maybe it was not the dad, but basically one of the beings in one of the characters in the book or in the play would smell oranges. And that's how he knew he was getting messages or talking with his higher self or his guide or whatever you want to call it. So I'm inviting you guys to start noticing that. Do you hear sound, or your ears start ringing, right? Oh, you must have heard I was talking about you because were your ears ringing? Those are signs and symbols that our higher self, our guides, are talking to us. No, it's not just tinnitus. Tinnitus is a situation if you were in, let's say you were fighting in battle and there was an explosion or a gunshot too close to your head. Yes, that's a different kind of ringing. What else? There's also skin sensitivities. So for some people, the sense of touch is very strong right now. Or not touch. Like I can usually just hover my hands over someone, right? And I know exactly where we need to work, or what is inflamed, or where there's stuck energy. And that's from me recognizing that through practice. So the message that's really coming through strongly is You have to practice with your new equipment in order to recognize what capabilities you have. So also, I'm being invited to remind everybody that this is different than it was a year ago. So I've also spoken through session with a lot of light workers who are feeling like they have lost their gift. And I'm being reminded to remind everybody, you haven't lost your gift necessarily. Now, there are times when we get so far away from our innate that we have to do things to get back in touch with it, yes. But what I'm saying is those gifts have shifted. So we're really being invited not to get hung up on the habit that we were in. For example, we might have been really attuned to tarot card readings, but all of a sudden we're not getting the same messages and clarity before. Well, it could be because something else has come online, and our guides, aka our higher self, aka spirit, source, all of those, which, by the way, I'm not saying those are all the same thing. From one perspective, they're different. We have guides that have agreed to work with us. We have ancestors. We have our higher self, which is separate. And then, of course, we have source through which all things exist. But in essence, they are all the same thing. But anyways, so that might be our guides. I just say that's easier to follow sometimes, trying to get us to stop focusing on just that and recognize something else has opened for us and play with that and explore it. I'm hearing get out of the same sandbox. And when I say get out of the same sandbox, what I see is I see time. Time doesn't exist the way that it used to. I see a reference to sand trap. Like some people get stuck playing in their sandbox, creating the same creations and all of that. When in all reality, there's no borders. All of a sudden the sand just flows out, and that allows it to connect with the grass and connect with other things on the playground, so to speak. So as we allow ourselves to mold into new forms of reality and creativity, we then flow out of the old mold. Many of us are already there. We have yet to recognize it. So we can choose to just play with the basics. You can choose to have an iPhone or an Apple Watch. I don't have an Apple Watch. I'm just using that as an example. You can choose to play with the Apple Watch and just use it to make phone calls. Or you can recognize all of the other capabilities and compatibilities that it has within it. And as you do that, you'll have aha moments. I'm just like being guided to talk about apps. So you have an app on the iPhone, let's say, that has an ability to monitor your sleeping patterns, and then you can see if you're hitting REM sleep, or if you are tossing and turning all night, etc., etc. And then you might have an aha saying, oh, I was dreaming the other night. That's right. Okay, what was I dreaming about? So then it takes you on this whole other path. So I'm being guided to use an example with that. So for example, let's say you don't usually remember your dreams. So you don't usually remember your dreams, but you see a dog on your way into work, and all of a sudden it jogs a memory that you dreamed about a dog the night before. Rather than blowing it off, recognize that as something little, even if it's little, and maybe go into that space of, wow, I remember my dream. I had a dog in it. I wonder what the dog was about. And that might be all that you remember. Just like on the new phone, you might just play with one app, but take it to the next level. So what I'm seeing is explore these new gifts. If you choose to, it's your choice whether you decide to or not. Ultimately, just because someone gives you a gift doesn't mean you have to unwrap it, right? That's your choice as a human being. But a lot of people haven't unwrapped their gifts. A lot of people aren't even looking at those gifts because of what I'm hearing is primarily habit patterns, primarily habitual patterns that have kept us from asking the right questions, that have kept us from exploring those gifts, right? They've kept us from even caring about them because we're so distracted and pulled into, so many different directions that we're not even noticing there's a gift sitting right in front of us. Or a lot of people have unwrapped them and then put them off to the side for those very same reasons, right? Okay. And so I'm also being guided. I kind of lost my train of thought there. I parked so I could focus. I get going easy and then all of a sudden I have to pull over because there's a lot going on and I want to focus. So basically these gifts are there. So the dog and the dream. So, recognize that might be all that happens, but then go and look it up. I have so many people that will ask me, Carrie, what I dreamed about this, what does it mean? And sometimes, I'll tell them my perspective, but really we need to do the work on our own. So Google it, DuckDuckGo it, look it up. Use your search engine. Use your heart, use your physical, use your search engine because it will lead you on a path of synchronicity. I had a good friend the other day who, it was so funny because she's into this stuff, not like I am, or maybe some of us watching, but she's very, very, very sensitive and she's got a gift for being very visual and she's not really explored it. And she had a lizard that ran across her foot the other day, and then another lizard that chased her. And then a friend of hers walked to her house and said, a lizard just ran over my foot. And so I always say, pay attention. That's not a coincidence. Lizard is trying to get your attention. Some people would go, ew, that's weird. Okay. She followed it and looked it up and, kind of played with that a little bit. And then what'll happen is that'll take you into different, lizard is about dreaming. Pay attention to your dreams. Good things are coming, right? It's a symbol. There's so much that goes along with lizard. So follow that. One little thing could change the rest of your life because it's breadcrumbs, right? It's spirit giving you these little sprinkles. So to go back to what I was saying about our bigger, activations, these big activations have come in, people aren't unwrapping them. So have fun unwrapping those gifts. It's so symbolic of Christmas, right? And I have another video I'm going to go into a little deeper about just the fact that Christmas is not just about the one thing we've been told it's about. That's a whole other video. It is also about us connecting in with our tree of life, right? Our Christmas tree. And there's a lot of videos about this. It's not something I'm going to go into in depth, but recognize that we get a lot of gifts right before Christmas. We have the solstice. We're going to have a full moon. We're having super phenomenal planetary alignments. I've been getting messages about the moon in general. Whatever your beliefs are, and we'll talk about this later about the moon being real or not real or bad or good, I'm going to suggest let go of all those judgments because energy has shifted so much around the moon that even those judgments are not, some of them are very valid, yes. But what I mean is there's actually good things going on with the moon to assist us. Well, it's always assisted us in some way, but that is lining up to help us. So we're getting a lot of help right now from the planets, from the earth, from our guides, whether they be ancestors, galactic, whatever. And the sun, huge energies from the sun. Okay, I'll end on this note. Heart palpitations, lots of them. It's okay. In love and light, guys, namaste.